Greeting nursing students. This is a quick APA style basics tutorial. It's going to help you understand the basics of incorporating outside sources into your writing. And at the end of the video, I'm going to walk you through a free, high quality online style guide called the Purdue OWL, the Online Writing Lab. The first thing that we're going to talk about is incorporating a source into your work. And there are 4 steps to doing this. Once you understand and can get a handle on these 4 steps, it's not that difficult of a process. You'll get yourself a really high quality style guide. That's what I'm going to show you at the end of the video. And then you just have an understanding of these 4 steps and something that can help you through it. The first step that we're going to talk about is introducing your work. This is important so that you don't have a quote plopped into the middle of a paragraph that you've written, or if you paraphrase or summarize a study or a clinical trial or a paper that you've read without giving credit. So this first step is meant to give credit to any outside sources that you may be using to evidence or further explain your own ideas. In order to do this, what you want to do is explain it, name it. So we have the last name of the author of this paper that I have cited right here. An APA wants you to include in parentheses after each author's name the date, the year specifically. Because when you're citing an APA style, it's important that your reader understands the date of the material that you're citing. Since scientific and health-related papers, studies, trials are so tied to the date that they were done, it's essential that you have that information. So we do have naming of the author. We have a little verb here to attribute it to that source. And then here's the quote. And then I've done it again. And it is Skinner. Here's the date. Who explains. And then here, I don't have a quote, but instead I've paraphrased this thing that Skinner has talked about. So I put that in my own words. And I'll show you a resource to help you do that a little bit later. It takes a little bit of practice. So that's step 1. We introduce by naming the outside source. The second step, I like to call it leaving a little crumb in the work. You're not going to give every single piece of information about your outside sources within your essay, within your writing, because that would be clunky. It would take up too much room. It would be unrealistic to do. But instead, what we're going to do is cite in text by leaving a tiny little crumb of information, and then the full citation, I'm going to call that a cookie, we list that on our list of references. So here, my crumbs are the dates, as well as the names, unless I've given them earlier. So in this second one, I have the author's name here, as well as a page number, so that when my reader wants to go find that original paper or that original passage that I have quoted or cited, they can find it very easily. So that's the little crumb that I need to leave in my paper. That's step 2. Step 3 is to actually talk about what I have just cited. Whether I've quoted something or whether I've paraphrased it, I need to talk about it. Otherwise, what's the point of putting it inside of my essay or inside of my paper? This would be similar to me asking someone a question and then before they started to answer, I walk away without listening. That's just rude. Of course, we're not going to do that. So here I have same passage. I talk about my 2 sources here. I've got a quote, tell you where I got it. I have a passage from Skinner here where he's talking about capacity, strategy, and control. She, actually. And then I talk about it. I reference it. I say there is a lot of overlap here. And then I continue to reference it. I've cut it off. We don't need to read it all. But the passage where you're explaining and connecting is likely going to be longer than the passage that you quote, because this is where you are taking a comment and developing it further and making a connection between your outside source and the main point of your paper or your essay. So that's step 3. That's to explain and connect. Now, step 4 is where you take that tiny little crumb from inside of your paper and you give me the entire cookie. In APA style, this page, and it is a separate page, is called references. In other styles, it's called different things, but here it's called references. It's a separate page that you put at the end of any paper that you're writing. And here's where you give all of the information that your reader might need to find the source themselves. So if they wanted to read the paper, read the chapter in the book, find the clinical trial, they would be able to do so. It also adds credibility so that your reader understands that you're getting this information from an outside source that is real, that you can prove, and importantly, again, for anything that you're doing in healthcare, something that is recent, because we want the most up-to-date information. So I give you the author of the book. In this case, it's a book. There are multiple authors, so that's what that means, at all. I have the date. That's very important. This is the title of the book. It's a long title. It's an edition book. So this would be as though you were citing your textbook. So it's got an edition, pardon me, and then it has some publication information. That's the publisher. So that tells you, as a reader of my paper, that this is the book that you need to find if you want to find my information. All right, so that's the basic 4-step process. But once we understand that process, how do we actually figure out how to create these citations and get a good handle on paraphrasing and summarizing information? Because it is difficult. Here's where I'm going to show you all a really handy, free online resource from Purdue University. They have an online writing lab. It's called the OWL. And they have citation style for a number of different styles. So you're going to be using APA, but if you ever, for a separate class or another assignment, have to use Modern Language Association style, you may have to do that. Chicago Manual of Style, if you do any studying at DePaul University, University of Chicago, or Chicago University, or University of Illinois at Chicago, or University of Chicago. And American Medical Association style. Now that's a separate style just for the medical profession, so it is possible that you're going to be using that at some point. Now, the research and citation resources that the Purdue OWL offers, again, they're free and they're really easy to use. So we're going to go into APA style on the website. It has two things here. It has an overview and a workshop, and it has a formatting and style guide. The first thing that you should read is the overview and the workshop, because it really explains to you why you use APA style, what it is, what goes into it, who the people are that should be using it. There you are, nursing, hello. And then it kind of just talks about the generals, okay? There's some basics, there are 2 types of papers that you might have to do, some things to avoid, and then it does talk about APA citation and reference lists, okay? This is what we're going to click on now. So in-text citations, this is when you're texting something, again, within the text of your paper. So we have a style that gives us something short. So if you have 1 or 2 lines worth of text, and again, notice how they give the title, or pardon me, the author, the date, and then the page. We have a style for long quotations. So if you have something, typically they say 40 words. I like to say something longer than about 3 lines. Same kind of thing. The author, the date, and then the page number. And here is where you summarize or paraphrase. So you're putting something in your own words. You still need to do step 1 and step 2. Absolutely, you have to do that. Now, the Purdue OWL gives us a little bit more help so that if we do want to learn how to summarize and paraphrase, I'm going to go back to the APA style workshop. And here, I'm going to go down to actually. Sorry, I'm going to go back to research and citation over here and using research. And this is actually applicable for all styles, not just APA. I'm going to go here under using research to quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Now here, they explain what these three things are, talk about why we use them, because there are different ways and different reasons why you might quote something as opposed to putting it in your own words. And they give you a little explanation as well as an exercise that you might do to practice paraphrasing, okay? So that is meant to help you. It's meant to guide you, to help you practice putting something in your own words. And they give you some things to do as well as some things to avoid, all right? So that is your short tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Feel free to contact me, lpower@mchenry.edu, if you have any more questions. Remember that the MCC reference librarians are also here to help you with research, as well as the SAGE Tutoring Center, who can help you with any writing, regardless of the subject that you're writing in. So don't forget to use the resources here at MCC. Good luck!